multitudes. Let your powers collide. Who are you in this vast multitudes?
What's up, everyone? I'm JayDreamerZ. Welcome to today's presentation. Now, I was going to do my omens segment for today. That's been bumped over to tomorrow because sometimes when I'm studying and researching, I come across a YouTube video or some information that I got to get it off my chest. I got to talk about it. So before I begin, I just want to make it very clear. I'm going to be responding to another content creator's video. Okay, I'm talking to him, but I'm also talking to you guys, and it's somebody that I'm subscribed to, somebody that I watch. I enjoy his channel. So if you know who it is, or if you don't, or whatever, or if you're watching, please don't take it as an offense or an affront or a hit piece or anything like that. It's not at all. It's just that the topic and the way it was presented really hit home with me, because I feel personally, I mean, you know, you guys know what I talk about here on my channel. I feel that these concepts or conspiracies, I like to call there's certain classes of conspiracies. I like to call these particular ones that we'll be discussing novel theories, not conspiracy theories, because they're not all conspiracies. They could be lumped in together, but I'm trying to steer away from that concept of conspiracy. I don't really like that word. I like novel theories. They're novel, meaning they're new. They're brand new. They're not your grandpa's JFK moon landing conspiracies. These are new. These are being born out of that older generation of conspiracy theorist mindsets. Anyways, the video response is in response to Woodward TV. He's got probably 500,000 viewers, and he's, you know, going through some stuff with monetization and everything, which I hope gets worked out. And I just wanted to say, you know, blow it up in the chat if you guys like his channel. I do. Okay, it doesn't mean I have to agree with everything that every channel I watch. I hope that you guys wouldn't agree with everything I say, but I vibe with the truth seeker in him. I vibe with him asking questions and asking his audience to think a little bit deeper. So I'm acknowledging that, right? I'm trying to offer the olive branch of peace because I like him, you know? I don't subscribe to a lot of people. But I want to talk about the approach to these novel theories, these new theories. So for example, let me give you guys an example. Novel theories to me are new theories. Things like mud flood theories, Tartaria or the Tartarian Empire, Satan's little season, or as I like to call it, the season of Satan, time speeding up, time dilations, phantom time hypothesis, the plasma apocalypse, new cosmologies. There's many different categories. I would probably put in melted buildings, ancient melted buildings, ancient giant trees also into this sort of collective group that I call novel theories. Okay, they're not exactly traditional old school 1970s conspiracy theories. These are new, okay? And they're innovative. I love them. I love talking about them. And I believe that they're all connected. And that's what my books are about. My books on the plasma apocalypse are about connecting every single one of these novel theories and old conspiracy theories. Pretty much everything, actually, I believe goes back to this creation destruction event. But I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat. There's 88 people in the chat right now watching. All right, cool. If you guys don't know, I did put a link to his video that I'm responding to in my description. And like I said, utmost respect, okay? But I am going to point out a few things as the truth seeker myself. We're going to be talking about and focusing on the mud flood, as you can see, mud floods, and the Tartarian Empire, as represented by my little t-shirt I got on here. Now, I'm going to be quoting some things that he said in his video. I don't want to play his video, but I'm just going to share it with you. If you've seen it, sweet. If not, you can check it out after this one. So he starts off the video by saying that we have many theories when it comes to mud floods and Tartaria and stuff like that. And I can tell there's some skepticism in his voice. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But the skepticism kind of sounds influential. You know what I'm saying? That's okay, right? We're all kind of influential in our own ways. Many theories, but not many answers. I beg to differ. First and foremost, he uses the word we a lot, okay? And which I try to warn people. I think it's wise to stay away from using collective terms like we. We have evidence, we need proof, or whatever. I try real hard to stay away from that. I try to personalize the things that I teach and talk about and theorize about and whatever. And if other people jump on board or resonate with that, sweet, that's awesome. But I'm not trying to use words like we to develop a team mentality. So just be careful. You know what I mean? And I think that that's not him personal. I just think that's our conditioning. We're conditioned collectively to have a team mentality, a sports-like mentality, a war mentality, an us versus them mentality. So he starts off by saying, we have many theories, but we don't have a lot of answers. I beg to differ. I have answers. Now, the question is, are those answers, responses, suitable to you personally? Not just Woodward TV, but to whoever happens to be listening. That's what proof is. You see, I have left academia. I have left that school of thought behind a long time ago. So what I don't want to do is dig my way out of one hole just to fall into another hole. Okay? So we have many theories, but we don't have a lot of answers. I have answers. They're mine. They're my own personal answers. They're not answers that I insist you believe in. They're not your answers, but they're mine. I'm an autodidactic. I'm a self-taught individual, and I'm continuing to be such. And I will continue to be such. I hope I'm a completely different person and have, vastly different beliefs 20 years from now. But they're mine. They're my answers. They're my proof. And this is where I left academics behind. Academics is, you can look in almost anybody's comment section. They love to bicker and argue, especially when it comes to even community, conspiracy theory communities. They just love it to bicker and argue about who's right and my belief's right and your belief's wrong and let's debate each other, etc. And that's that sports mentality. I have answers that are proof enough for me personally. Okay. Now I'm very adamant. I'm very excited about all of my answers that make sense to me personally. And that's why I have my YouTube channel, and I encourage you guys, especially if you're a troll out there somewhere and you just like to jump in people's comments and troll people, go make your own channel, put your face on TV, let people see you, share your thoughts, share your research or your feelings or whatever it may be. That's what I do. Okay. And I'm going to get to the whole YouTuber internet talking head thing as well, because that was, sort of mentioned in this video, but later. So that's proof. Okay. So when he says we don't have a lot of answers, I'm telling you the answers are out there. I see them. I can see them from where I'm sitting. I write books that have the answers in them. I talk to people every day, providing answers, responses, things to consider, things that make sense to me, little puzzle pieces that are my own, that I have found, so that people can add it to other puzzle pieces from other channels and other people and other scholars or whatever that they have found, that they resonate with. So do some of us have the answers? Yes. Are we collecting the answers? Yes, we are. So I'm satisfied. I'm pretty satisfied when it comes to the subject of Tartaria. I feel on point. I feel good. My theories, especially pertaining to my second book that I wrote, make all the sense in the world to me personally. So next up, we've got people claim rewritten history and a global cover-up that would have to stretch out across centuries. And he says this with a bit of skepticism. Woodward, you're saying this like, like, bro, look at your content. Okay, you're talking about aliens, ancient giant trees, the mountains are trees, AI takeovers and stuff. Like, I believe in all that stuff too, to a certain degree. But I'm saying, like, those things also require a certain level of like worldwide cover-up, a global cover-up and stuff. This whole idea that, this goes back to like NASA and the moon landing, where the most of the world's population has been conditioned to respond immediately to almost any conspiracy theory, but especially large ones like the flat Earth or NASA faking moon landings and stuff like that. Almost immediately conditioned to go, do you know how huge of an undertaking that would be? Do you know how many people would have to keep that secret? And I've told people a million times, one person. That's all it takes. It just takes one person to deceive a couple of other people, and then they deceive a couple of other people. And it's a big pyramid scheme. You know what I mean? It doesn't take that much. Even over time, and there's evidence, ample evidence. Even the United States themselves have written records time and time again, declassifying information, admitting, yes, we lied about history. We lied to our own people. We lied to the whole world, and that's just the United States. So yes, it's very plausible that there are many different global cover-ups that stretch across centuries. And I've personally found ample amounts of evidence to support many different ones, which I believe are all connected and related too. Hold on, let me take a quick second to check my chat. I just want to make sure everything sounds good since I am a live streamer. You guys can hear me okay, see me okay, no issues or anything. 139 people watching. High five to all you guys. Okay, cool. I'm gonna keep on going. Let's keep on going. All right. Next up, he points out that we need sources that can be independently verified. Let me just jump right in. I don't need that. Okay. He might need that as an individual personally to be convinced of, mud floods or the Tartarian Empire or whatever it may be, but not me. He's not speaking for every truth seeker on earth. He's speaking for himself or his team, because there's that team mentality that's kind of creeping out, which I don't think he's doing on purpose. Lots of us don't do that on purpose. But that's how we were raised. We need sources that can be independently verified as to the rewriting of history, specifically as it pertains to the Tartarian Empire. Okay, allow me to help you out. A source that can be independently verified that indeed confirms a cover-up, a global cover-up that would have to stretch across centuries and the rewriting of history. Very well. Allow me to do some screen sharing. Let's see. Is it this one? Yes. All right. So this is a video that I made called Erasing Tartaria. Declassified CIA documents. Let's give this a listen. It's called The National Cultural Development Under Communism. It says, let us take the matter of history. And I'm just going to read the highlighted portions, okay? Here again, the communists have interfered in a shameless manner. They issued a directive ordering the party's Tartar committee to proceed to a scientific revision of history of Tartaria. In other words, Tartar history was to be rewritten. Let us be frank. It was to be falsified. Rewritten history to distort the facts so that Russians appear always in the good light. Histories which present the facts truthfully have been withdrawn and destroyed. Declassified. CIA government document. Actually rewriting history 1984 style. Okay. So that's my little clip. You guys can find that here on my channel if you want to listen to it again. If you're interested in reading the whole entire document, I have it right here. This is called. Hold on, let me. Okay, so this is the whole thing right here pertaining to. So what this is, just in case the words were a little too big. Basically, this is Russia admitting that they took all of Tartarian history, or a great majority of it, and just took the eraser to it, rewrote it, just like George Orwell's 1984 with the Ministry of Truth, how they rewrite history and facts and stuff. Let me read it again real quick. Or let us take the matter of history. Now, hold on. Let me share with you something here. This is a declassified government document, CIA, National Cultural Development under Communism. If the Russians have something like this, I guarantee the United States does too. I just haven't found it yet. This is way back in 1957. Approved for release in 1999. Now, let me go back down here. Let us take the matter of history, which, along with religion, language, and literature, constitute the core of a people's cultural heritage. They're saying history is a core part of who we are. Okay, here again, the communists have interfered in a shameless manner. The communists of Russia at the time have altered history. For example, on the 9th of August, 1944, the Central Committee of the Communist Party, sitting in Moscow, issued a directive ordering the party's Tartar Provincial Committee to proceed to a scientific rewriting of the history of Tartaria. Let me read that again. Okay? They were ordered to proceed to a scientific revision of the history of Tartaria to liquidate serious shortcomings and mistakes of a nationalistic character committed by individual writers and historians in dealing with Tartar history. Basically, we're going to erase the things we don't like, and we'll keep some things that we do. We're going to manipulate the history of the Tartarian people. Now, he says, in other words, Tartar history was to be rewritten. Let us be frank, black and white right here. So if you want proof, if you want evidence, to me, this is compelling. To me, this is very compelling that this is a declassified United States CIA document that literally says in black and white, Tartarian history has been falsified and rewritten. History has been changed by the government. This is no conspiracy theory and, ooh, it's a wacko idea. This is actual history. This is evidence. If this was a court of law, I would present this as Exhibit A. Tartarian history was to be rewritten. Let us be frank. It was to be falsified in order to eliminate references to Great Russian aggression and to hide the facts of the real course of the Tartar-Russian relations. It goes on and on and on. So feel free to look this document up if you'd like to. I'm reading this from cia.gov/readingroom/docs, etc. I'm going to get rid of this page now because I have like 50 tabs open on my computer. I hope you guys can hear me okay. Now, more proof, more evidence, okay, from internet personalities, if you will, okay? I would like to offer Exhibit B, another channel that I really like, that I try to watch as much as I can. I haven't watched a lot lately, but this channel is called My Lunch Break. My Lunch Break, this channel, primarily focuses on the destruction and recharacterization and rewriting of histories pertaining to the old world, okay? Past 500 years or so, I would say. He really focuses on that. Now, if you're interested, I highly recommend going to this channel and going to his playlist called The Old World Fire Games, where he does an excellent investigative, independent journalistic approach to really discovering various documents from historic records to blueprints to names of architects who, one guy's name is F.L. Ames. It spells flames. It's crazy. But he really does a great job of categorizing how all of these magnificent structures that seemed to be tied into, and often are tied into, the concept of an advanced empire or an advanced, group of individuals, nation, whatever you want to say, compared to the rest of the world, building architecture that seems to be a form of antiquitech itself, used and designed to work with the very ether or the electrically amplified atmosphere, as well as, in my opinion, geoplasmas that rise up from the earth every other cycle. And he says how they're destroyed systematically through fires. I've got a few theories to add to that myself. Sometimes I believe these fires are natural, but nonetheless, there's always these fires that are destroying all of these old world buildings that have no business sometimes even being destroyed by fires. I'll give you another example here next. So please do check out My Lunch Break, and shout out to you. High five. You do great work. Love it. What else? All right, I'm going to get rid of this one. Okay. You guys want to see his channel? Hold on. I don't know how to, it's too big right now. I can't make it. There we go. Oh, there's his little channel, My Lunch Break. You see? He should have more subscribers than that, in my opinion. I think he should have at least 500,000. All right. So high five to My Lunch Break. Next up, since we're talking about proof. Okay. Now, proof is only proof enough for you and then the individual out there. Okay. There is no proof that's like, this just is empirical. This is fact. Like you can't argue against this. You can argue against anything. All the proofs I'm about to show you, people can argue against. They can say, well, I don't believe that. That's fine. It's proof enough for me personally. It might be proof enough for somebody else personally. To other people, they'll be like, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. I don't believe that. And that's okay. That's okay. So sources that can be independently verified, those are two. And they have a lot of information. Okay. So my video with the CIA document, My Lunch Breaks channel, the Temple of Artemis, and the Drum of Death in Hades. Let me talk to you about the Temple of Artemis and the Drum of Death in Hades. What is the Temple of Artemis? Let's check it out. This is mentioned in the Bible, by the way. So the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus in modern-day Turkey was a magnificent marble, keep that in mind, sanctuary, and one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, dedicated to the Greek goddess of the hunt. Also in Rome, she was known as Diana. Its final grandest incarnation featured over 120 massive columns. Today, only the foundation and a single reconstructed column remain at the site. Now let's check it out. This plays into the proof of the mud floods, okay? And for me personally, the Tartarian Empire. I'm going to share with you, what is this? Why do I have that word pulled up here? Oh, this is from a Bible passage. Okay, cool. So Sardis. So this temple is located in the biblical city of Sardis, I believe it is. So let me go back a little bit. This is in the Bible, as I said. And let me read to you this biblical passage that makes mention of this in the book of Revelation, by the way, which in Woodward's video, he said, why are we skipping over Revelation or whatever? I'm not skipping over Revelation. Many of us, researchers, content creators, etc., we're not skipping over the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation happens to fit nicely within all of these different novel theories, I believe. But this is in the book of Revelation. It says this is Revelation chapter 2, by the way. To the church in Ephesus. Now, this person is writing to these 7 different places of power, or these churches. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'm going to skip down to this important part. Which is, where is it? Let me just search it real quick. There it is. All right, cool. So he's talking about the church of Ephesus. He starts off by saying, hey, you got some good stuff going for you, just like how this video started off, actually. But here's the issue that I take. He says, therefore, keep in mind how far you have fallen. Talking to the church in Ephesus, or is that the same place? Ephesus and Sardis? Hold on, let me just double check and make sure. Is ancient Sardis in Ephesus? I hope so. I might be wrong. No, ancient Sardis is not in Ephesus. They are two separate, distinct ancient cities located in Western Turkey. Oh, okay. That's the whole thing I was going on, was Turkey. Okay. I don't personally believe that all these places were in Turkey, but Turkey comes up time and time again and will come up with some of this evidence that I offer to you. Okay. And he says, remember how far you have fallen. Now, places in Turkey, like Sardis and like some other places that I'll share with you here too, were known to be built on swampy land, on liquidy, swampy, muddy land. And many of these places have sank down over time. The Temple of Artemis is no exception. So let's check out some pictures of the Temple of Artemis. I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that. Here we go. So here are some pictures of the Temple of Artemis when it was excavated in the early 1900s. This is one of the seven wonders of the world. You can see up here, they have this pillar, goes way up out of the ground, and all the rest of it down to the base where these little tiny people are standing is all under soil. It's all under the earth. Now, modern academics will tell you, yeah, this was just a mud flooded. That's literally their explanation for this. There was a flood of mud over time, and it just kept piling up. And that's why the temple is buried. Notice that these columns and pillars and stuff are not like knocked down. Now, the other explanation for the destruction of this temple is not just that it sank, because this temple disappeared. This is one of the seven wonders of the world. It disappeared off of maps. People couldn't locate it. They didn't know where it was. One of the seven wonders of the ancient world just suddenly vanished from the historic record. People didn't know where it was. They say there is a popular opinion within academics that is very sketchy, but it is said that there were Gothic raids, and raiders came in and set this temple on fire. Now look how far down the human is. That would be the floor of this ancient temple. And they set this whole temple ablaze, knocking it over. And I don't know, they don't say knocking it over. There's really literally one sentence that hinges upon the idea that ancient Goths came and destroyed or raided this temple and destroyed it. Okay. Let me show you some more pictures. As you can see, it's completely covered, sank down into the ground in 1911. There's the 9/11 factor. Sank down perfectly straight. You see that? And they're saying this is like a river of silt and debris. And they can't even say this is volcanic ash or something. That would make more sense to me. This sank straight down into the ground. Let me give you my evidence, my belief, my theory, my hypothesis. Let's be philosophers and scientists about it. Biblically speaking, there will be worldwide earthquakes at the end of time, at the end of this coming age, at the end of this age, I should say. Okay? And there are other religions that corroborate this, that there have been in the past worldwide earthquakes. There will be in the future worldwide earthquakes in diverse and various places, various magnitudes. The earth is going to vibrate. When the earth vibrates, the water rises up to the top, and it makes all this muddy and liquidy. And it's already swampy. This entire area in Turkey is already a big swamp as far as the ground goes. Not a lot of like bedrock right there. And Jesus also sort of mentions this when he talks about wise people building upon rock as opposed to sand and stuff. And when the earthquake comes, your house sinks down into the sand. That's exactly what you see here. These people built this magnificent structure, one of the seven wonders of the world, on a swampland. And if you have all that vibrating, it causes liquefaction that causes dense objects just to sink right down into it easily. And they're not even like toppled over or anything. They're just perfectly standing. So they excavated this. What is that? Like at least 30 feet, I'm giving it, of mud. Okay. And then you could tell it used to be mud. I'm going to call it mud. I can see into the past that used to be mud. So that's why I like to call it mud. That is a mud mountain, or used to be a mud mountain. I'm looking into the past. Obviously, it's just dirt right now, but all the water has been taken out of it. So this is the Temple of Artemis. Here it is in the modern times. Look at these people standing right next to these pillars. They've cleaned them up. They've excavated them. You can see the ground way back there, going way high up. This is the bottom of that picture I just showed you, or this picture right here. Same things. So these are basically the exact same columns. When this was being excavated, that's how much mud they dug out. That's how much dirt they dug out from these columns. These columns sank straight down into the ground. Now, keep in mind, everything is, I'm just sharing it as a matter of fact. It's actually just my opinion. It's actually just reasonable to me based on my research and common sense and my life's experience and stuff, okay? Sometimes it's easier to say things as a matter of fact, and we're all guilty of that. So take it with a grain of salt. Now, do you see these bottom ones? These bottom ones down here? So they found some of these bottom ones. See how the pillars are like segmented? Okay? These pillars up here are segmented into like different parts. I'm just going over my notes real quick. So I've got here, academia's historic account of the destruction of the temple by Gothic raids is primarily based off of a single sentence, which was Goths laid waste many populous cities and set fire to the renowned temple of Diana at Ephesus. Now, that was written by a guy 300 years after the fact, approximately 300 years after the fact, who was summarizing, allegedly, a 12-volume history of the Goths. And he says he had about 3 days of access to it, but can't remember when. So this is all very kind of sketchy to me, is this whole Gothic raiding party that came and destroyed this temple, and now it's under, 30 feet of mud. Excuse me. At some point in the past, those writings are now lost to time. So the 12-volume history that he was quoting or whatever is now lost to time. So it's like a one-sentence quote about the Goths invading this place based on a 12-volume history that no one even knows if it even existed. Then this happened sometime between the year 262 AD, the raid of the Goths, and the 3rd century, whenever there was rumors of this place having closed permanently and then it just disappeared after that. Something happened to this temple, erasing it from existence until its excavation in the early 1900s. This place disappeared. It was literally physically covered up by a mud flood, by a flooding of mud. It doesn't have to be a river of mud. It could just be a flood of mud that rises up from the earth itself, or from, using a biblical reference, the fountains of the deep. Okay? These things sink down, and they're not the only things that have sunk down over time. I've got some different examples to share with you guys. But back to these little things. See how they're sectioned off? These things weigh like 11 tons. So here's an example of one that was found. I want to share this one with you. This one has death carved into it. It's got Hades carved into it. It's got Hermes. You can see Hermes right here. Little staff of Hermes. I don't know what I did. Anyways, you can see this guy right here. He's got a little wand. That's Hermes. Okay. So it's got Death, Hades, Hermes, and a few of their characters carved into it. This was found upside down in the water at the bottom of the temple over here, way down here. It was found upside down. Tell me how that happens. Tell me how you get an 11-ton portion of a pillar upside down through Gothic raids where they typically would just come, set fire, destroy a few things, and pillage it and leave, right? Or even the Christians who would like be all pissed off because this is a pagan temple or whatever. How do you get 11 tons? You know what you would have to do? You'd have to have cranes. You'd have to have construction equipment and stuff. And then you'd have to set all that stuff on swampy land anyway to lift up 11 tons and flip it upside down for some odd reason. Or it makes sense to me personally that if you have worldwide liquefaction because there's earthquakes in various places, the whole earth is shaking and vibrating and the water rises up and these things start to sink and the inner earth gives out in different places, that it just falls down and it just starts to flip around. You have pieces of it that crumble apart and they become buried. This is that Mother Nature literally with the cover up of her own. This is Mother Nature's cover up. All right, let me get rid of some of these and I'll move on here. Look at that. Look how deep that is, okay? I can't buy this whole, there's silt water from a river that just stacked up and stacked up and stacked up and stacked up. That's modern academic thinking. That's the type of reverse engineering they use with the Grand Canyon. And they say the Grand Canyon was carved out millions of years by water or whatever. Here's another example of this guy standing there. Look how far down that is. Here's another picture, Temple of Ephesus. That picture kind of sucks. Let's move on. Here's another. Here's them during excavations. Okay. Here's another column. You see that bottom part? Yeah, 11 tons. These things weighed 11 tons. Or at least that particular one did. All right, here's some more of those column pieces on the top, by the way. You can see some of the ones that were apart. All right, now let me move on to another buried city. This one's amazing. Let's check out another buried city. Oh, but actually, I thought that was really interesting that they have death and Hades literally sinking down into the earth. And this, by the way, is a prophecy from the Bible. It says, death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire, which traditionally would be down inside of the earth or is associated with the inner earth somehow or somewhere nearby, okay? A lake of fire. That's pretty interesting to me. All right. I'm just getting rid of some of these tabs that I have open to save on memory. Now let's check out another place that sank into the earth. It is, I want you to pay close attention to the spelling of this word. Do you see how it has atol? Atol. Just like Quetzalcoatl, meaning serpent-like. Ka-atl means serpent-like. Atol means serpent, or it implies serpent. Ka, within ancient Phoenician roots, or Paleo-Hebrew, means like, as, or according to. It's like a serpent, ka-atl. That's where you get that from. Ka'atl oyok. Ka'atl oyek. Ka'atl oyek. Anyways, let's check out this place. It is famously in a similar area, buried underground, a whole little village, a whole town with all of these structures. This is just the tops. Okay, you can see like this is the surface right here. You can see like that's the ground right here where my mouse is. And then you would go down and these are where the houses are. The houses are buried underground. And it's not, academics would say, oh, it's just dust burying it over thousands of years. What they actually say in modern academia is that they just built on top of that. How does that happen? How do you just build on top of existing houses? Nobody does that. Nobody in the modern world just builds on top of existing houses. If you had houses like this, okay, whatever they are, you're going to naturally want to demolish them if you want to build in that spot, or you're going to add to them, okay? But you're not just going to like cover it up. Okay, let's just bury our houses. Let's just bury them, okay? And then we'll build a new house on top of what we just buried. People don't do that typically. Okay, that doesn't make any sense to me personally that anybody's going to just bury a whole city in order to build a new city right on top of it. Nature can do this through liquefaction, and that whole city, that all those heavy, dense stones and stuff are going to sink straight down into the earth. The tops of it might be left open, which is why they tend to put ladders and stuff, and you've got to go down into these houses through the roof because now it's just a box that sank down into the earth. But modern academics will tell you, just build on top of it. How does that even happen? No, you clear away rubble. If they're trying to say it was like destroyed over time or that they destroyed it or whatever, you destroy it, you clear away the rubble, then you build there. Okay, you don't just build on ruins. You know what I mean? To my knowledge, that's not how that works. That's not the best way to go about building a new house, is literally right on top of an old house. You know what I mean? I don't even know how that's physically possible in some instances. But anyways, this place, I'll show you proof that it sank into the earth. They say, let me check the chat. Hold on, my phone goes dark every once in a while. All right, hold on. I just want to make sure everything's good. You guys can hear me okay? Okay, cool. Now, listen, they say that this whole underground city that was excavated, it's not even a tunnel system or anything, okay? This is just your normal street, your normal little village that is sunk down into the earth all at one time, sank straight down into the earth, okay? The doors are on the roofs, have ladders to get up to get it down into their houses. This place sank down into the ground. How do I know that? Well, the people that were down in the bottoms of these houses died. And you can tell, I'm going to show you their skeletons. All right, so be careful. This is going to be a little tiny bit graphic. You're going to see some skeletons, okay, of ancient people. You could tell by the positions that the skeletons are in. This was not like, hey, let's give our dead an honorable burial in our basement. Okay. Most of these ancient belief systems had rules, and where you had to put your dead outside of your living areas, outside of town. Usually, they would be considered unclean. You don't just bury grandma in the basement and let her body rot while you're up above cooking dinner. Okay, let's check out some of these skeletons. Frozen into position. Exhibit A. Here is a skeleton of a person holding what appears to be a smaller person, a skeleton from thousands of years ago, allegedly. Does that look like they just like died naturally and like they're like, okay, let's bury him now and let's have him hug passionately, like clearly looks like they're frozen into position during a cataclysmic event. Okay, this is at the bottom of these houses where the people would have been at the time. Now, that's not the only one from this city that sunk down into the earth during an apocalyptic event. Here is another one, and they want you to believe that that's the position that they buried that person in. That does not look to me like a natural person, a natural position for a person to be in. That's like the people of Pompeii, like frozen into position like that and saying that that was just natural, you know, that they had died of natural causes. And then they were just like kind of placed into that position because they knew ahead of time the volcano would go off and freeze them like that. You know what I mean? They're not burying people in these weird positions. They're going to lay you down and bury you normally like they always have buried people forever. Here's another one. This person looks like they're like laying there praying. They're in fetal positions. A lot of these people look like they were asleep when this happened. They were asleep. The earth sank. They were covered in mud, covered in a lot of weight, I would imagine too. Okay, and then you have plasmas on top of it. If you put plasmas or high strong electrical charges that are just dancing over the surface, removing all of the water instantaneously from some of this mud, turning it instantly into freaking rock and densifying it, then you have people frozen into position while they're laying there passed out or reading a book or whatever they were doing at the time. You know, laying with their kids and stuff. Here's a whole bunch of people all just laying there all together. Here's a couple more people clearly look like they were sleeping. This is not that they were laid into this position after they had already died and let's bury them under the kitchen. That's not going to happen. This place sank into the earth quickly. Look at this guy. He looked like he was struggling, to me personally. I mean, you can see when things are kind of frozen in action. I can see that. Okay, I don't know if you can see it, but I can see it. I can see the movement right before, boom, this guy couldn't move anymore. Right when he got stuck. And then suffocated, died. Real quick. Here's another one. Somebody looks like they're just sleeping. Just passed out. Down there in the ground. Cuddled up. When the apocalypse comes. And look, this is like rock. Look at this. It's like rock all the way around here. You see that? That's because these things that we call rocks weren't always rock. They were clay. They were malleable. And then you have these strong plasma currents that come down, remove the water, zap it, and petrify it instantaneously, much like the ancient giant trees that people talk about, right? Or things of that nature. All right, let me get rid of some of those. That's just some evidence. I just wanted to share that with you guys, okay? So you can take this into consideration. Now, I personally don't know how much research other people have done into these types of things, all right? And I feel like I've done a good amount, enough that I am convinced personally that there was a worldwide mud flood or sinking or liquefaction. I like to call it liquefaction. I asked ChatGPT here. Hold on, let me check my notes. So I want to go back to talking about his video. He talks about the word Tartaria. Okay, so he talks about Tartaria, the word. Let me share with you the origin of the word Tartaria. I asked AI, what's the oldest culture to mention the Tatars? Now, check this out. They were never called originally Tartarians. It wasn't tar two times. Okay? I'm just teaching you guys, just so you know. It was Tet-ar or Tet-ir. Okay, the vowels you could play with, but it's TTR, Tatir, Tatar. Okay, that was the name of the people originally. Now, the oldest reference to them comes from, according to this source, 732 AD, not too long ago, carved in stone in Mongolia's Orkhon Valley in the Kol area, written in Old Turkic runic alphabet. And this is what it looks like. I asked it, how is it spelled? It's spelled like this. Let me see if you guys can see this. See this weird, hold on. See this weird symbols over here? Yeah, that's TTR from right to left, just like how the Hebrews wrote, just like how the Phoenicians wrote. They wrote from right to left, which tells me they were predominantly left-handed, which tells me they were more creative thinkers and stuff. But that's me going down novel theory, okay? But anyways, TTR. That R is a suffix in many ancient languages, and it implies people from, or it implies people of, or over time it just became a way to make something plural. People, more than one, a group of people, heads of nations, heads of tribes. And the letter R, resh, or resh in Phoenician, literally was a picture of a head, okay? So the root of this is TT, the letter T. That's the root of Tartarian. That's the root of Tartarian or Aryan, you could say, which is what it is. It's Tet. What is the Tet? The Tet is the land at the middle of the world. I'll talk about this in a second. I thought I had a map pulled up of that land. I got it somewhere over here. This will suffice, okay? You see this little map right here? Here, let me pull this up. Pow. Boom, you see that? That circle with the X inside of it, the X marks the spot. That was the glyph for the letter Tet in many different languages. That is it. Tet represented the breadbasket of the earth, the cornucopia of the earth, the Garden of Eden. That was the Tet. Okay? So the Tatir, or the Tatar, the Tartarians, were the people who came from the Tet, the land called Tet. Or you could say Thoth, if you pronounce it with the TH, which it was often pronounced as a TH. There's different ways to pronounce this. This is where the word Titan comes from. Tet-on, Titan, Tatir. Titans, basically, large people, or large beings, I should say, large phenomenon sometimes, that come from this place, that we're seen in this place. That is the origin of the word Tatar, or Tartarian. Now, in his video, he immediately kind of jumps onto what I would consider to be like more of an academic mentality when it comes to the Tartarians, equating them with these people, chubby Asians, okay? Typical Mongols, or you could say Mongoloid, which is the scientific word for it, by the way, okay? I don't believe so. The Tartarian nation was known, and it's been recorded in in different documents by different explorers and, you know, different people across time to have been a mixed multitude of tribes. Okay. So it was just Mongols. Tartarian word was just another word for chubby Chinese guys, Mongoloids, or people from Mongolia or Upper China or whatever. Okay. This is propaganda. This is for people who are ignorant of the fact that the Tartarian Empire stretched around the entire world. And I'll show you proof of that. But this is what they're trying to say the Tartarians all looked like. They were chubby Chinese guys with horny hats. I don't believe so. And by the way, the reason they have those horns on their hats and stuff like that has to do with the electrified atmosphere at the time. But that's a different video. But anyways, this is what we're told. But in reality, the relatives, the ancestors of today, of ancient Tartarians, who have entire countries still named after them and tribes named after them, look like this. These are depicting the Volga Tartars. There's different groups of Tartarians, okay, or Tatars, you could call them. This right here says today, Tatars, especially Volga Tartars, are one of Russia's largest ethnic groups, preserving a strong Islamic tradition, literary language, and cultural identity, blending steppe. It says Uralic. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be something else. And Islamic heritages. Here's another example of a modern Tartarian woman wearing modern Tartarian clothing. Here's another one example. These are the Tatars. These are relatives of those people. I'm not saying, by the way, and I'm not making the case that the Tartarians were white people. Do not mistake what I'm saying. These people are white people, but they were a mixed multitude. Okay, so just as much as they were not all white people, they were not all Mongols. They were not all Japanese and Chinese and stuff. All those people, all those nations come from the center of the world. And whenever they became nomadic and they left Hyperborea, they left the Garden of Eden, there was a cataclysm, they were forced out. They became nomadic. They started wandering around. And each time one of those tribes, different races of people, different tribes, 12 to 13 different races, different tribes from the center of the earth. Because we all know that they like to keep their bloodlines pure and stuff, and they have reasons for that. Every time they were wandering around and one of those tribes was like, hey, they look just like us, they would go be the representatives. They would go talk with them. And that's why they blended in. Or that makes sense to me why they would have easily have blended in and they left no trace. Because they just blended right in as they, went in a circle around the northern hemisphere. Here are the Kazan Tatars, the Crimean Tatars, the Nizhny Novgorod Tatars. They look Caucasian. These ones at the very least do. Me. So the movies try to make people like Genghis Khan and all these other people like the Khans. The Khan is a name for the Tartarian leaders, typically, okay? And it comes from the word Kohen, which means priest or somebody that speaks for God, okay? That's why it's Kahan or Kohen. If you have like a Jewish last name, Kohen, that's literally what your name means. They were the leaders that spoke for God. They were wise people. They were the wise people of their tribes. All right, let me close up some of these tabs and we'll continue on. So yes, he sort of, did show some of the Mongol-looking Tatars. Let me get my notes up here. Then he goes on talking about technologically advanced civilizations whose history was erased. Almost with some disdain, like that can't be a thing. What you would need to support that claim. So him, and it's not just him, it's many people that say the similar type of thing, okay? What you need in order to support that claim. Let me defend myself real quick in my position and my walk on my path. I don't need a damn thing to support that claim. I can have a feeling. And that's all I go off of. I can have a whole YouTube channel, 365 days a week, talking about feelings I have. Instincts, a gut feeling, and I could go off of that, and that would be fine with me. And that's okay. And there are people that do that, and I'm fine with them. I'm okay. I don't insist that they study the way I study or believe the way I believe. I just share my path. If people vibe with it, cool. If they don't, that's fine too. So he talks about what you would need to support the claim of a technologically advanced civilization whose history was erased. Oh man, there's mounds of evidence. I mean, the primary one, which is the stories of Atlantis, like just come to my mind first and foremost, which I write about too. These are the things that Woodward TV says that we have to have. We would need this in order to even consider the possibility. 1, archaeological evidence. 2, inscriptions. 3, government records. 4, language, like a clear and concise language that like belongs to them. 5, coinage. So these people have to have their own coins. And you have to, that says, like, I imagine the coins, like, in order for it to be proof enough for someone, I imagine it would have to be like, we are Tartaria, like stamped onto the coin or something. I don't know. You would have to find traces of that culture to find that there was a worldwide empire. Okay, so I disagree with all of that. I don't believe that you would have to have archaeological evidence. I don't personally believe that you would have to have, or that I need, inscriptions from such a people. As a matter of fact, if you go all the way back to the ancient Phoenician / Paleo-Hebrew people, that was against the commandments. No graven images. Écriver in French is engrave. To engrave is to write. Writing was literally against the commandment. Okay? At least that's how I interpret that when I transliterated the 10 Commandments back into the original Phoenician and then translated that into English. And you can see a hint of that too in the movie, and there is truth in movies. What was that movie? Stargate. They should actually show you that in Stargate. Anyways, you don't need government records to prove that the Tartarian people existed. You don't need coins with, someone saying like, I am Tartarian and like posing for the coin or whatever. You don't need that. I don't need that. You might need that. I'm getting excited. You might need that, Woodward TV, and I'm okay with that, buddy. If that's what you need personally, okay. But to tell your entire 500,000 worth of audience that they all need that too, I'm telling all of your audience, no, they don't. Okay, they need what is enough for them personally. Now, why? Why don't I believe that we need coins and language and government records and inscriptions and archaeological evidence in order to prove that there was some technologically advanced civilization walking around? Because they were walking around. Because they were nomads. They were nomadic. They had no home. They had left their home, a technologically advanced place where they worked with nature and learned how to use technology that worked with nature. And especially that particular place where they live in Hyperborea, I believe, in the Garden of Eden, in Avalon, whatever you want to call it. It's at the center of the world. They lived to be hundreds and hundreds of years old. They accumulated a lot of knowledge at the time. You would not need for nomads, a nomadic people, or even expect them to have coins. They're traders. They're going to trade supplies and stuff like that. They're going to barter. They don't need coins. They're on the move. Your coin over here is going to be worth nothing to the people over there. You know what I mean? The empire, the Tartarian Empire, was nomadic. That's like asking for the same kind of proof for the existence of the Scythians, the Berbers, the Bedouins, the Romani, the Gypsies, the Indo-Aryans, etc., and so on and so forth. You don't need coins to prove that Gypsies exist. You don't need you don't need evidence that they have their own specific language, especially if they were telepathic. And I'm going to throw that out there too. I believe that they were telepathic, at least when they left the Garden of Eden. But then as the energy dwindled over time and the surface world kept losing more and more energy because those geoplasmas were no longer erupting out of the center of the earth, amplifying the electrical field and therefore our very spirits, telepathy started to decline. People started to lose their power. As a matter of fact, this is one of the reasons why gypsies are associated with things like fortune telling and telepathy and forecasting and stuff like that, because they used to have those powers, I believe. it makes sense to me. Okay. So the global mud flood conspiracy, according to him, was invented to cover it all up. Like you had to have something wash away the Tartarian people so that there's no proof and no evidence. Hold on, let me see a different picture here so you guys don't get bored with those ones. I don't need the mud flood. I don't need to invent a conspiracy in order to make it real. It's real all by itself. The evidence is there for me personally. I can see it across the board, across history and across time, that there was a people known as the Tartarians, that they were nomadic, that they moved all the way, not just in Siberia, not just northern China or whatever, all around the northern hemisphere. I've seen ample proof of their existence on ancient maps and other places. So let me get back to my notes here. Oh yeah, so you would not need all that proof in order to prove a certain people. That kind of reminds me of like the ancient Hebrews too. Like this, I mean, the real old Hebrews from like, that were escaping Egypt and stuff like that. They were kind of like in that society, but there's not a lot of like actual substance to prove that those people existed. People make the case and they make some good cases, but there's not like an overwhelming just like flood of evidence that there was these Hebrew people that were enslaved in Egypt or whatever. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just being comparative for a moment. Okay. A lot of people believe that across the world. That's a primary belief within Christianity. All right. What else? So he goes on to say the global mud flood conspiracy was invented to cover it all up. Like it had to be like it necessitated some big conspiracy instead of it actually being a natural event, which is liquefaction, worldwide earthquakes that are corroborated in the Bible. Not only covered up the existence of the Tatars, but of much of the ancient world. So these mud floods, if I'm correct, that the whole world was, a muddy, swampy place for a time. I'm going to reference you back to the Dark Ages, okay? Then it stands to reason that stuff could sink down in the vibrating muddy waters of the quicksand of many different places. But especially those places that are built on, swampy areas or whatever already. This led to mass migrations and a complete abandoning of entire cities, entire villages, entire colonies, entire tribes, entire temple complexes around the same time, at the same periods in history, almost like clockwork, like it's a cycle that happens. You have just the disappearance of major civilizations that just all fall around the same time or disappear. Or some, like the Roanoke colony, just up and left all their belongings behind, like they had somewhere to go. I believe that somewhere is Hyperborea. I believe that there are times when that land reemerges and people head home as quick as they can and they leave it all behind. That's me. That's what I believe in. So far, at this particular point. People point to modern structures made in the ancient style. So this was another point that was made by Woodward TV. People will point to the modern structures made in the ancient style. For example, I just went to Washington, D.C. I do this, so I am definitely guilty of this, but I've got a good reason for it. People will point to modern structures made in the ancient style, assuming that they are, in fact, ancient themselves. I hear that. That can be a mistake that people make, is to look at something that looks old and say that it is old. Okay? Washington, D.C. is a prime example of this. Okay? It's basically like a World's Fair that never went away. But the World's Fairs are also good examples of this too. Now, are they ancient? Okay, well, that requires a little investigating, looking into blueprints and possibly photographs and stuff like that. But I'm going to offer you a consideration. This is dismissive to say that everyone is just looking at buildings that look old, but they're actually modern, and we just think that they're all old. Are there people that do that? Yes, there are. I'm not one of them. But yes, there are people that do that. That doesn't mean everybody's doing that. I feel like this is dismissive. If they're not ancient in construction, they're just modern constructions. At the very least, they are ancient in practicality and in their symbolism. They're hearkening back to or paying homage to a time when the world was electrically amplified and the people from the center of the world roamed about helping survivors of the Southlands, which is the theory I like. That's the theory that makes sense to me. These people at the center of the world, the land at the North Pole, which is another novel theory, which is actually not. It's actually an old theory that's been brought up again. These people were evicted by Mother Nature. They had to leave due to cataclysm. They brought their superior intellect to the people of the Southlands to help them out, and they used that intellect to trade. We'll teach you how to do this if you give us some supplies and some food and stuff. And they went on their merry way, and maybe sometimes invited some of the ones out of that group that looked just like them to join them. Hey, you look just like me. Do you want to hang out with me and my family? And then they would disperse. It's called the diaspora. They would disperse, and they would integrate themselves one tribe at a time into these different places where they found people that looked just like they did, all the way around the world. So even if these buildings, like the ones from the World's Fairs, do I have some of that pulled up here? Yeah. So even if, like, for example, the Chicago World's Fair, even if this is all brand new back in the cowboy days, the Wild West, and this isn't like leftover from some ancient culture, I could say that it's likely, if we do have cycles of cataclysms and these people keep going back to Hyperborea and then they're expelled and then it's very likely, I think it's conceivable that those same people would be intelligent enough to know the different places around the world that are places of power where they would like to settle and establish their cities and keep returning back to those same places every other cycle, every time the world gets destroyed. They might even have their own map and go, yep, you guys want to go back to Chicago this time? Yeah, let's go back. Let's name it something different though. Okay, we can do that. And they go back to Chicago and they settle here and they settle in Washington and they settle in London and they settle in all these different places because they know these are energetic places of power, and they build domes right over those openings in the earth or whatever. They have columns and pillars. All of this, even if it was made temporarily, which not all of these structures were temporary. You know that. I know that. Even if they were all temporary, it clearly harkens back to and pays homage to something that is not the Wild West. This doesn't look anything like the 1700s, the 1800s, the 1900s. It looks like a fictitious place. And I cannot personally be persuaded that it's just fun to build it that way. It's just decorative. You know how many times I heard that when I was in Washington, D.C., when I'm asking about the meaning behind the symbolism of all their structures, paintings, statues, columns, pillars, domes, etc. It's just decorative. It's just pretty. I can't believe that. My mind is screaming that this is practical, or at the very least harkens back to and pays homage to their homeland. This is Atlantis. This is an Atlantean replica. This is a Hyperborean replica. This pays homage to a people who were proud and healthy and gigantic and strong and intelligent, and they have a strong sense of pride. And they miss that. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm getting from it. So here you go. Voila. And all the people around the world from those tribes that dispersed send their leaders and representatives, which are usually really rich and can afford to build places like this and have meetings and fancy dinners and stuff. You don't see a lot of cowboys just walking around with their 6-shooters in this particular picture, do you? No. You see Bilderbergs and frickin' Rothschilds. you know what I'm saying? Okay, yes. That they're all meeting at this big dome building back there for brunch that cost $1,000 back in the Wild West or whatever it was, okay? This was not for your common people. Maybe some common people stumbled in. I don't know how that works, but I'm telling you, this comes from my gut. This comes from my intuition. This comes from having been in places like Washington, D.C. and read these inscriptions and seen nothing of Abraham Lincoln and seen nothing of Jesus on the cross and seen nothing of anything of the time, anything that looks like it's from the time. This looks like it's from Atlantis. So at the very least, that's what I'm saying. These types of places pay homage to the Garden of Eden. They pay homage to ancient biblical places and times that we have all but forgotten about. We just forgot about all of these places. Legendary places. Phantom islands at the North Pole. Everyone knows these people come from the extreme north too. I'm not going to say everybody, but many people have come to that conclusion hundreds of years before I have just now talked about it. Okay? It was well known that there were these strange, rich tribes, which is, by the way, what Ottoman means. Otto, O-T-T-O, means rich, wealthy. You see that in the elevator? Every time you get in an elevator, it says Otto. Anyways, this is hearkening back to those times. Let's take a look at, hold on, I'm going to get to this Tartarian hunting dog here in just a second. That's more proof. I'm just showing you some of the proof, okay? For me, it's proof. I'm not trying to convince you guys. I'm just showing you what has been very convincing to me personally. Okay? These are all little pieces of that puzzle. And many of these buildings, these monumental buildings, have strong Freemasonic connections. Okay? Clearly, secret societies, clearly bloodlines, clearly all the things that we all know when we think of Freemasonry. What else? I'll get back to my notes. I want to talk about this Tartarian. Let's look at Tartaria on a map. Before I show you this Tartarian hunting dog and his connection to who the Tartarians are, let me show you the Tartarian Empire on a map. This right here is the Urbano-Montian map, Urbano-Monti of 1587, I believe. Okay, this is a world map. It is in the flat style. Okay, this is not a ball world. This is a flat world. It has Antarctica without any ice all the way around. It has a phantom island, a whole country, which is actually 4 different islands right here in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, split by 4 rivers. 1, 2, 3, 4, just as it is described in the Bible. And then let's suppose that there were people, tribes that all lived here. There was a cataclysm. Their island was going to sink or the waters would come up. Either way, it's the same thing. And they had to leave. And they had advanced knowledge of it. And they knew and they were warned it would happen. The only way they could leave is through these rivers. This one right here has 7 heads. This would be considered the Euphrates River, biblically speaking, to make way the kings of the East. They would leave through the Euphrates River and they would come directly down into, they've got 2 choices now. Basically, what equates to Alaska, Canada, and the United States. Let's see what we have here. Oh, look at that. It's a griffin, which happens to be the symbol for the Tartarians. It's a weird looking serpent griffin, but still it's a griffin. Okay. Now, back to my map. This is in Canada. It's not just that there's a griffin, but there are Tartarian hunting dogs next to that griffin. I will prove to you these are Tartarian hunting dogs. Now, it says Terra Incognita up here, way northern Canada. Okay. But over here by the griffin, we've got these Tartarian style tents. You know they're Tartarian because 1, it says it right there. 2, they look like circus people. This is where traveling circuses come from, I believe. Okay, they're freaks, they're weirdos, they have abilities and stuff. Like, you know, these are your nomadic people. They lived in what look like circus tents, and this is where the traveling circus idea comes from. Anyways, right here, it literally says this is where the Tartarians live. In Canada, in North America. You can imagine they came down a bit and, you know, explored this land. This is California. Okay. There's a bunch more writing over here. There's another griffin over here on the other side. Upside down, you can see, okay? This is North America. Tartarians in North America. They lived here. They've been here before. Like I said, they probably have maps of the times they've been here during prior cycles. And they have their preferred places to go settle down. But they have to clear out anyone that's living there beforehand. Now, this is Siberia over here. So when they come through the Euphrates River down here, they have two options. They can come down here into the Americas, or, you know what I mean? Or they can come this way into what equates to Siberia and Russia, which is why you have Tartarian people still, the Tatars, in Russia and Siberia. They're related to these people. Now, you have this entire sea is called Mare Tartaro, which means the sea of the Tartarians, or specifically the sea of the people from the Tet, which is this land right here. Okay? Now, I'm just going to reiterate, this makes sense to me. This is my research. For years and years, decades, I've been researching this type of information, okay? From linguistics to etymology to history to biblical narratives, etc. Anyways, these people come down here and boom, do we see Tartarian tents? Do we see those circus tents? Yes, we do. Badago. That's in the Mercator map too, by the way, with that circular island at the middle of the world. This was a huge place that they established, just a little temporary city that they stayed in that was known as Badago. As you can see, there's tents, so it's not actual cities. They'll let you know on this map if it's an actual city. Look, let me show you. Look, these little buildings with walls around them, these are actual cities. These huge Tartarian tents are Tartarian tents. These are nomadic people. Okay, and it talks all about the Tartarians all over this part of the map. Okay, here you can see it talks about Tartarians right here, Tartari. See that word? But they have these hunting dogs. Okay, these are gigantic dogs. On this map, they're called Kenai Alani. The Alani was another name for one of the tribes of the Tartarians. Okay, because the Tartarian Empire was many tribes. It was a mixed race. Okay, not mixed like everybody was mixed. They had their own tribes, but they had a mix of many different tribes who all traveled together, as the story goes. But these Tartarian hunting dogs, let me move it around so you can see it better. Let's take a look at them, okay? Take a good look. How they have these thick collars, almost these sort of red lips. They look albino, but they have really short snouts and long tails. These were said to be gigantic dogs, predecessors possibly to mastiffs and what's that other one? The other real tall dog? I forget, but huge dogs, okay? These were huge Tartarian hunting dogs. Well, you know why? Because they came from the center of the world where everything was huge. Gigantism. The people from this land are huge. They were gigantic. So in some stories, twice the size of regular people out here in the Southlands. I imagine their dogs would be twice the size as regular dogs. Now, let's take a look and see if we can find records of Tartarian hunting dogs in antiquity. Wapow! Here you go. This is known as there's many of these. There's probably 7 different images that look just like this. And it's called something like the hunt for the unicorn. You can find the same exact dog right here. Okay. See that style of dog right there? Thick collars. This one's even blue, same as that other one. Let's compare the two. You see that? This dog is a Tartarian hunting dog. That right there, all these are Tartarian hunting dogs, which means the people holding them are probably Tartarian. Like, see, they're like pretty much albino. A lot of these dogs are albino. But let's take a look at the people. These gigantic people. Do they look like Attila the Hun? Which I don't think that's how he looked anyway. They're hunting a unicorn, by the way. No, this guy literally looks like Columbus over here. Look at this dude. See that? They don't look Mongoloid or anything to me personally. Okay. I imagine these are the Tartarians who are all walking around with Tartarian hunting dogs. There's one behind me. Hold on, let me show you this other one down here at the bottom. I did a whole breakdown of this on my movie Decode, Death of a Unicorn. So if you're interested in this particular tapestry and these secrets that it holds, go check out that breakdown I did of that movie, that decode. It's called Death of a Unicorn. Man, where did that dog go? There's one in the corner somewhere that I saw. I don't know. I lost it. Oh, there it is. There it is. There's that puppy. Tartarian hunting dogs right there. Bam. Right? And I know that there are because we can look at this map right over here and we can see it says Alani Tartari right there. The Tartarian hunting dogs. That's just one piece of evidence. And this map is full of all kinds of good, juicy little artifacts, like this particular rock right here, which is known as Vitsark, which I talk about in my second book. This is a pirate rock. The pirate thing is also deeply integrated into all of this. But I digress. Let's get rid of the Urbano Monte map. Let's get rid of the Tartarian hunting dogs. Let's get rid of the old world structures that clearly harken to some other place, some other time, and something that just is passionately ingrained in these particular people from around the world that now rule the world. These world's fairs are not for common people. They're for the leaders of the world. Because the world, you live in the new age, buddy. Oh, speaking of the world's fairs, they don't just take down everything. The Empire State Building was created for the World's Fair. And they say it was supposed to be temporary. But they left it up for a few years. Why? They discovered, oh, it has radio properties. We can use it as a giant radio antenna. Problem is, speaking of antiquitech and ancient technology before it actually was invented, the radio wasn't invented until about 6 years later after this World's Fair and after this was already constructed. Interesting. The radio had not been invented yet, and that's the reason why they saved the Eiffel Tower. They discovered, hey, Jennifer, I wanted to give you a shout out. Last time, Jennifer, I just got a donation on my PayPal from Jennifer. Thank you so much. I'm going to read what you wrote to me, Jennifer, in just a second, but I just want to say thank you because you've been a great supporter for a very long time, and I've never really gave you a shout out for it. So I just want to say thank you. Like every time I get one of your messages or something, it means the world to me. And I stop and I say a little thank you, and I look up at the sky. I say thank you, and I think of you. All right. And that goes for many of you, by the way. All right. So let's see. Let's get rid of the Eiffel Tower. Actually, I'll keep the Eiffel Tower up. Let's go back to the Tartarian flag. Let me check my notes. So if you're just joining me, I am responding to a video, the content that was in the video that Woodward TV, somebody that I admire and respect as a fellow content creator. He does a great job. I just wanted to share with him and share with you guys the things that kind of, I don't really agree with. Okay, and that's totally okay. It's okay. He doesn't have to believe in the plasma apocalypse or flat Earth or any of the stuff that, I tend to believe in. That's okay. We can still see what resonates between our content. Now, he says that there are lots of unanswered questions. I disagree with that. I believe there are lots of answered questions. And I believe that there is evidence, for me personally, that points to that. He asks, why did certain architectural styles disappear? This is a legitimate question that he has. My answer to that is because the atmosphere changed. Our world changed. Those architectural styles were practical. They were a form of working, they were a form of technology working with an electrically amplified atmosphere, not just decorative. So whenever the atmosphere was no longer electrically amplified, circa early 1900s, I'd say from the 17 to the 1900s, it really started to dwindle. But if you go back, even in those 200 years, you can find evidence that the atmosphere was electrically amplified. I will give you the example of lightning rod fashion in France, en français, in the late 1700s. Right around the time they're signing the Declaration of Independence, the French were walking around with lightning rods on their heads and umbrellas and parasols, etc. So yes, I do believe there's ample evidence to support the fact, for me, that the atmosphere was electrically amplified. That amplification, that electrical charge dwindled over the past couple of 100 years as we move into a new season, a new time. a short season, as I believe also that the time is shortening, that the days are quickening. We have less energy in our atmosphere, which does not necessitate any longer the design of certain buildings that work with that energy because the energy is gone. So now because the energy is gone, we project the modern age and modern conditions onto antiquity. And we do ourselves a disservice in doing so. We go, well, I don't understand why castles looked like that. Well, I don't understand the Gothic architecture style. It just must have been beautiful. It just must be pretty. It must look nice. We don't understand because we have forgotten the past. We have forgotten these cycles. So to me, that is my answer to your question. Why did certain architectural styles disappear? Because our environment changed, and so did our architecture and those styles along with it. Another question that he asks legitimately, why were historic buildings demolished during urban renewal? Why would they destroy all of these old ones like my lunch break talks about all the time? My answer to that is to get rid of the evidence. And on top of getting rid of the evidence purposefully, accidentally, and as a byproduct of just time, people forgot about it. They forgot about the practicality behind it. Okay. Our world changed. And over a short period of time, people forgot about the reasons behind their traditions, their holidays, their architectural styles, many different things. They no longer understand their origins. They have become lost tribes. They have forgotten themselves. They no longer conceive of the ancient past. So they have to grasp at straws. That is my answer to that. They want, and when I say they want to get rid of the evidence, if in fact the Tartarian people, and they go by many names, the Berbers, the Barbars, the Barbarians, etc. Okay, savages from the north, however you want to look at them. If in fact they had superior intellect, and through such superior intellect, were able to easily get their hands into property and banking systems and the monetary systems, and they just naturally sort of inherited the world or took over the world. I'm not trying to paint them in a bad light either. Okay. Good for them. They took over the world. High five. Good job. Okay. It seems like it's a natural thing when you're like 1,000 times smarter than everybody else in the lands that you're going into. You don't have to like try too hard to conquer them. It's like they'll end up just giving you their land. You know what I mean? Like that's just a natural thing that I would expect to happen. But once you get to a certain extent, and because of this particular time that we live in that I believe in, called the season of Satan or Satan's little season, a time where the electricity and the energy in our surface world is being charged and pulled down into the bowels of the earth. So we are lacking energy today, and there's evidence for that in the fact that you need to eat, that we are all consumers, that we eat so much in order to get energy. Why? Because we're lacking energy. Why do you sleep so much for an entire third of a day? Some of you more. Because you're lacking that much energy. It wasn't always so. It wasn't always there. And you can see evidence for that looking back in history, that during times when they didn't build toilets, they didn't eat. They were energetically amplified. They didn't have bed chambers and castles because they didn't sleep. And I'm not saying all of them. Okay, I'm saying many of them. All right? There is the evidence there for me personally that I have seen and found, and it makes sense to me. What else? How much knowledge has been lost from ancient civilizations? I say nearly all of it. The secret societies, the Freemasons, etc., the Illuminati, they have preserved this knowledge, and that's why they are powerful. Knowledge is power. Okay? But most of that knowledge is lost every time. It's physically and literally covered up by the earth through the mud. We haven't even talked about the plasma apocalypse. We haven't even discussed the possibility of atmospheric depressurization on a massive scale that sucks people and plants and animals and evidence and proof up into the heavens and scatters them to the four winds, or possibly just sucks them out of our world, out of the dome that I believe exists as well. There's a lot to consider. Nature is very capable of covering up our historic record and resetting us naturally, more so than mankind or nefarious groups of people or whatever. All right, what else? What else? Oh, How did ancient maps represent regions that Europeans barely understood? My answer to that, so how did ancient maps represent regions that European people barely understood or had traveled to, right? The answer to that, my answer, which is mine, it can be your answer too if you want, is the world has already been mapped out many times over, cycle after cycle, as these people leave the center of the world. They're forced out through cataclysm. They wander about. They go through the motion again. They already know this is going to happen. They're going to be nomads. They're going to be traders. They're going to do this and that. They're going to, mix into local populations and stuff. And then when they see the signs to call them back home, they're all going to collectively create a greater exodus, and they're going to go back to Hyperborea, which is the name of my second book, Return to Hyperborea. They're going to go back to the Garden of Eden. They're going to go back to Avalon, back to Atlantis, that will rise again from the ocean. So my answer to that is the world's already been mapped out time and time again. Some people remember the shapes. Some people remember the places. I would also add that I believe there is a firmament that is reflective when geoplasmas are erupting from the earth up at the firmament. It will reflect the land below. So it's very possible, from my perspective and my research, that people would have been able to look up at the earth, at the sky in certain times, and seeing the land that is below in different places, and just draw a map, just write it out. Other people might look up and not realize that that's a reflection of the earth, and they will think that there's like a planet above us, or who knows. But that's my answer. Yes, the evidence is weighty for the existence of a global civilization that came from the North Pole, used superior knowledge to gain prominence within every major culture of survivors from the Southlands. Let me say that again. Yes, I personally do believe that there is enough weighty evidence for the existence of a global civilization that came from the North Pole, used their superior knowledge to gain prominence within every major culture of survivors from the Southlands, dissolved into those cultures, and covered up their own takeover, all while planning to return to their homeland and regain their vast knowledge, longer lifespans, and better health. He goes on to say, these things do not prove the existence of a worldwide Tartarian civilization. I would like to add to that, to you, my friend. These things don't prove it to you. Everything I've just listed, you could say doesn't prove it, but the reality is, and the honest answer is, it doesn't prove it to you individually. I'm not trying to rally up all my subscribers and everyone on the internet to go door to door spreading the gospel of plasma apocalypse or whatever. I'm just excited about it personally. If there's people that vibe and want to jump on my train and ride the plasma apocalypse train and, go on that journey, sweet, cool. They're welcome to come with me. But we're not evangelizing, okay? That's definitely not what I'm trying to do as a truth seeker. It's bad luck to wake a man when he's sleeping, as they say in Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm not trying to go around waking people up. I am waking up. And because I'm waking up, and the more awake I am, the more light I shine. And because it's no longer dark, just walking around shining my light, other people are going to naturally start to open their eyes because they know daytime is coming. Does that make sense? They're going to start naturally waking up because I'm already awake. I don't need to go around forcing people to wake up. It's time to wake up for me. It's time to wake up here on my channel. But I'm not trying to evangelize the world and, have a sports mentality. And I'm not saying you are either. But what else? These things do not prove the existence of a worldwide Tartarian civilization to you, my friend, not to me. To me, these things definitely are weighty evidence and proof, to me personally, that there has been a worldwide Tartarian civilization and that there still is, and they're still in cahoots with each other, rubbing elbows with the elite and the mega rich who have slowly and subtly and slightly taken over the entire world. That's proof enough to me, and I'm okay with that. If other people out there need more proof or whatever, then you're not ready. You're good. You need more proof. I side with you. I believe you, that you personally need more proof. That doesn't mean we all do, though. Okay? Not all of us need it. I definitely don't. So I'm raising my hand. Okay. I'll be the one in the classroom that everyone goes, not again. When I raise my hand and I disagree. Okay. And I represent myself. Now, there are records from the Vedas, some of the oldest texts within Hinduism, and the oldest stories within Hinduism too, which were written by nomadic, I might add, Indo-Aryans, which share this similar story that I've just shared with you, that there is advanced thinkers, intelligent people that have advanced technology or capability to build advanced technology to work with the ether, the atmosphere, the earth, etc., who came down traditionally in the Vedas, which were written around the 300s. Some people would say 300 to 500 BC. I lean towards 300 because I believe that it seems to me that that's the most likely candidate for the season of Satan having begun. And by season of Satan, I mean the time when geoplasmas retracted and our world stopped filling with energy. And we started to lack energy more and more and more, leading us to today when we have a severe lack of energy. So I believe there's also ample evidence for the Satan's little season. And I believe personally that the likelihood that it started around the 1300s is a strong possibility. That's to me the best candidate for this prior period of 1,000 years and when that began. There's a depressurization around the world. There's literally a whole ice age after that. And that's exactly what I would expect to happen if the atmosphere depressurized, because it needs to, and a hole opens up in the dome. But anyways, I digress. Where was I going with that? So the Vedas themselves talk about these people who came from the north and came down and exchanged, civilized them and helped them to grow as a culture and as a people intellectually, and helped them to be more productive and to live easier. And they were known as the noble people that came from the north. What else? So he also says we go from flat earth theories. I don't know what his stance is on the whole flat earth thing. I have a unique cosmological view. I don't consider myself a traditional flat earther, but I'm way more of a flat earther than I am a spinning, wobbling, tilting, flying space ball chasing a giant fireball through uncharted, unknown space. I don't side with that camp at all. Okay. I would rather go hang out with the flat earthers than I would NASA people or whatever, astronauts. But I believe in a concept that is all my own that I call the fractal verse. But that's not really what I want to get into right now. That is on my website if you want to know more about the fractal verse. And I've got a 24-hour free cram session. You can just join my website, go straight to the fractal verse tab in the Ancient Oblivion tab and learn all about it. What else? Okay, so I was talking about the Aryan people. So it's a similar story. They came down from the north, etc. And it's not just Hinduism. Okay, there's similar stories like that across time. Oh, so he says we go from flat earth theories, which is to me not a theory. That's fact. Okay, the world is not a spinning, wobbling, tilting space ball flying after the sun. To me, that's a fact, and I've got ample evidence for me personally to prove that from walk after walk in life, subject after subject, topic after topic. So we go from flat earth theories to Satan's short season. I'm not sure where he stands on both of those, but I'm totally convinced that we do live during the time biblically that's known as Satan's little season. And I think there's ample evidence for that. But that's me, and that's fine if other people don't recognize it. I highly recommend, if you want proof for that, just look at the world you live in. Just look at the people. Pull up TikTok for 5 minutes. Doom scroll for 5 minutes. Take into consideration, is this the golden age? Is this the Christ-ruled kingdom of the world? Is that what it looks like right now? Or does it look like something I would expect the devil to leave and rule over and stuff? That's what it looks like to me personally. But that's me. Anyways, what else? So we go from those theories. How do we just skip past the book of Revelation? Well, we don't. Okay, we are not skipping past Revelation. I don't know what influencers and content creators and stuff you watch, and we're all shown different things in our feeds. Okay, But the ones that I watch and admire and stuff, we definitely are not skipping over the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation fits perfectly within all of this timeline, within all of these novel theories that we've been tossing out and coming up with, which I want to talk about too in just a second. So he goes on to say, hold on, let me see. Do I have any other pictures I want to share? All right, I'm going to get rid of the Eiffel Tower one. I'm going to leave the Mercator map up because I might need to reference that. Here's Tartaria on a map. I'll leave that one up too. That one looks kind of cool. Grand Tartary. Oh, by the way, so people will say Grand Tartary, Grand Tartary. Okay, this was just a catch-all name for that particular region. I've already showed you proof that Grand Tartary, or the Tartarian nation, which is tribe after tribe after tribe, just like the 12 tribes of Israel, okay, was worldwide. That they walked around the northern hemisphere all the way, and they kept going until they find places to settle down or integrate themselves into. So no, this was not just another way of saying the Wild West at all. This is where the giant Tartarian people lived. Grand means giant. Tartary, Tartarian people. The people from the Tet. What else? Did I already have one of those? Yeah, I do. Get rid of that one. Boom. And wow, I got a bunch of these. Okay, we'll get rid of that. We'll get rid of that. I'm going to make a few more points before I wrap up here. Get rid of that. I feel like this is a good presentation. I got one more tab. All right. Okay, let's put up the Tartary. Where's that other one? I'm going to leave this one. I like this one. All right, cool. Now, I'm going to go back to addressing some of the points that Woodward had made in his video. And I just want to remind you guys again, I love his work, okay? I like listening to the guy. He gets me to think, if anything. I mean, he inspired this entire video and had me researching for like 3 hours today, right before the video. Okay, so if anything, you know, that's good. I think that's a great thing. So anyways, please, if you go over there and leave comments, please represent the Good Vibe Tribe, okay? I'm begging you guys. Do not be one of those people that goes over there and trolls and says, oh yeah, or you know what I mean? Don't do that. We don't do that over here on my channel, okay? The people that I know, I love you guys. You guys are great, all right? We're not here to tear people down. We're not here to take away. We're here to contribute. We're here to grow. We're here to help out and add to other people's walk. His video added to my life. So I wanted to return the favor and add to his and add to you guys's. All right, what else? Let me address some of this stuff. So it doesn't seem like he might believe in like the whole Satan's little season. I don't know though, so I'm not sure. But he feels that some people are skipping over the book of Revelation. Perhaps they are. I most certainly am not. The book of Revelation fits perfectly into both of those novel theories. He goes on to say, even if official government records from a Tartarian state were covered up, which I have shown you already that is the fact, that is the case, rewritten, which I have shown you that is the case, or destroyed, which I have shown you that is the case, that's not enough, he says. I'm going to add in for you, my friend. That's not enough for you. It is enough for me. That seems legit to me. You still need, which I believe he means I still need, coins, inscriptions, writing in distinct Tartarian language, which to me is more closer to Phoenician, but I'm sure they had different glyphs and stuff over time. You need archaeological sites with clearly identifiable Tartarian artifacts from those sites. You need accounts from multiple independent civilizations describing such an empire in the areas where those empires existed, not from people in the US. And he really hit home on that, which is, I'm going to try to give you some friendly advice, okay? You are one of those people. I don't know if you live in the US or not, but you're making the illusion that independent researchers shouldn't get their information from YouTube. YouTube is an excellent source of outstanding, noble people who have good intentions, who are good and excellent researchers, who have their particular areas of expertise, and all hold their own little pieces to a greater big picture of a bigger puzzle. So, my hat's off to all of you internet people, whether you're on Twitter or TikTok or YouTube or whatever, you have fallen through the cracks of an evil system where there are a lot of talking heads that say a lot of nonsense and drink 13 Red Bulls and pound cotton candy while they're doing the Tide Pod challenge. Okay? But that doesn't mean that just because we are internet personalities who live in the United States, that we're like all wrong. And Woodward, that's you too, man. So, you know what I mean? You can say that, but the reality is, nah. Like you can get a good source of info from anywhere. You can get it from the internet. You can get it from the library. You can get it from the guy that works as the clerk at the 7-Eleven. You can get it from the inside of an Apple. You can, I mean, wherever you get it from, you're getting it. And it's for you. That's okay for me. But I don't need all that evidence. Okay? I don't, just because I don't have a coin that's like, this was made by Tartarians in the year, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm good. I've got enough ample evidence in other places, which some of it I've shared during this video. Okay, but that's nowhere, I haven't even scratched the surface. I've got enough ample evidence, an overwhelming amount, that I lean in that direction. Okay? Me personally. You don't have to. That's totally cool. But I encourage all of you to act likewise. Follow your intuition. Follow what makes sense to you. Okay? You don't have to join a team. You don't have to be, on Team JayDreamerZ or Team My Lunch Break or Team Woodward or whatever. You guys can have all of us as your favorites. You guys can tune in. And some of us complement each other so nicely. Try not to divide us. Okay? That's what I'm saying. We work much better when we're put together. We work much better when we're put together. What else? He says you need engineering artifacts. He means he needs engineering artifacts that would show that there was technology that was more advanced than what was known from that period. So I offer you the Vedas, once again, is one example from antiquity where you do have those examples, Vimanas and stuff like that. The claim, he goes on to say that the claim that it was, okay, so in reference to Tartaria, the claim that it was a hidden advanced civilization or an empire at one point, that's going to remain a theory because there just isn't enough evidence available. There just isn't. This is his quote. I disagree. It's a fact for me personally. Okay, I have accepted it as a fact. If the rest of the world doesn't believe that it's a fact, that's fine with me. I am not influenced by peer pressure. I don't care what the rest of the world thinks, honestly. I will take into consideration what the rest of the world thinks because I'm reasonable. But that doesn't mean that I need to side with them and be a front runner. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying that's not my nature. I don't do something just because everyone is doing it. I don't have a group mentality or a herd mentality or a mob mentality. So to me, it's plenty of evidence. Just the things I went over and even less than that, honestly. And there's way more evidence than that. But it's enough for me. Where was I? Oh, it's going to remain a theory. Well, it's not for me. I put it through the scientific method and I have elevated it from theory to fact for me on my path, on my walk. Okay. I'm not saying it's a fact for you. You guys make up your own facts. What else? He also says this is known as theory stacking. Earth is flat. Therefore, space agencies are hiding the truth. Therefore, satellites are fabricated. Therefore, GPS works in a different way than what we're told. Therefore, a global conspiracy exists. Therefore, historic records have been altered. Therefore, I'm like nodding my head as he reads this whole list. We are living inside of a hidden prophetic age. Check. Therefore, the truth was covered up by mud. I don't know if that's because of that, but yes, the world was covered up by mud, and therefore some of the truth. Therefore, Satan wants us to think that we're living in a different time period than we actually are. And so he makes the point. Do you see this? Do you see what they're doing? I'm saying this is just a natural result. These are called implications. It's dismissive to say, do you see what they're doing? Like you're literally building a conspiracy out of it. It's the implication. If you start off with the earth is flat or there is an alternative cosmology to the earth, there's going to be a lot of therefores. There's going to be a lot of implications. That's going to touch on all kinds of things in the modern world and prophecies and things going into the future. So yeah, I would never be so dismissive as to just label it as theory stacking. You know what I mean? That's almost like calling people conspiracy theorists. That's just a conspiracy theory. You're just now you're just theory stacking. Yeah, I'm looking for the implications to something I have already found evident in my life. From my perspective, that's evident to me. So what are the implications of that? How can that affect something else? Oh, it has affected something else because therefore it touches this over here. Now, do people have wild ideas and jump off the deep end sometimes? Yes. I have seen many people. I went to the Garden of the Gods with a dude, bless his soul. I won't say his name, but he thought that the Garden of the Gods, there's like these rocks that stick straight up out of the ground. And he swears that those are bird wings and that they're made of little holographic, like fractal bird wings and stuff. And he was really excited. I can't side with that. You know, I don't believe that those are actual bird wings sticking up out of the earth. But I'm not gonna slam on the dude and make him, feel stupid or think, call him stupid or make him feel bad because I don't see it. I've got my own perspective. I got my own theories and stuff. And I'm like, that's cool, Birdman. Give me a high five. Like, that's cool. That's a unique theory. You're thinking outside of the box. I'll give you that. I don't believe that they're bird wings or whatever. Just like the ancient petrified trees. I used to believe that. I no longer do believe that. I believe that there are large, gigantic trees like sequoias and redwoods and maybe some cedars of Lebanon and stuff like that. But as far as the Devil's Tower goes, or things that look like that, like Giant's Causeway and stuff, to me, I've got a totally brand new theory because I've grown since then. And I believe that that's electrical, that mountain is created electrically where the strong electrical plasma filaments are hovering over the muddy earth and it pulls it up into the air until it creates a circuit and petrifies it in place. Not just the mud, but, those particular ones are made out of like melted metals and earth, which we call lava or magma. But anyways, I'm getting off course. Let me finish this presentation. What else? Theory stacking. So yeah, I wouldn't be so dismissive. I personally am not going to be so dismissive, and I don't encourage you guys either. So if you watch me and I make a mistake, don't do what I do. And people have called me out on my mistakes, believe me, many times over the past 11 years or however long I've been doing this. Whew, you got to have tough skin. I'll tell you that, because we're hearing it from the world. We make one mistake, we're hearing it 1,000 times a day from everybody. I'm sure he knows what I'm talking about. Woodward knows what I'm talking about because he's got like 5 times as many subscribers as I do. And I hear it a bunch. So I can't even imagine what he hears. He probably won't even see this video, actually. That's fine with me too. I'm venting, that's all. I'm just letting it out, okay? Because we affect other people. You know what I mean? Like we are influencing other people what to consider, how to think, and in some cases, creating actual division when it's my purpose to unify. I'm trying to be friends with, I'm trying to put those puzzle pieces together. You know what I mean? And so that's what I encourage. Because I think that we're going to make more progress doing it like that. He goes on to say, I definitely think we're living in the Satan of season. I mean, season is still Satan season or whatever. But I also think time is speeding up. I've got lots of videos with lots of compelling evidence to show you that you're living during what Jesus refers to as the shortening of the days. Okay? That the days are being shortened, that the length of time in a day is no longer the same 24 hours as it used to be 70 years ago. We still have 24 hours, but those are going way faster than the olden days 24 hours, which has implications. Therefore, people that lived to be 100 a long time ago, in our years, were actually closer to 120. Or, you know what I mean? Like there's implications, like I say. What else? So yes, this is not just theory stacking. This is sleuthing. This is investigation. This is the scientific method for some of us. This is disclosure. This is independent research. I want to say this is Sparta so bad right now. I really want to say that. I wish I had put a video of that guy up there. Last but not least, he says, maybe we should back up and slow down a bit before we give ourselves over to a strong delusion before God even has a chance. I offer you the same advice, my friend. Back up and slow down a little bit, because it seems like there's a lot of things maybe you haven't considered yet. And not just you, everyone else, many other people around the world haven't considered these things. We are taught by modern academics to quickly dismiss, to quickly minimize, to quickly turn and look the other way whenever something doesn't immediately make sense to us, especially if we've been raised in a culture that is full of propaganda and, conditions us through the school system and stuff, since we're born, basically, since we come into the world. So I believe that the strong delusion is already in this world. Okay, I see a deluded people. When I look at the people of the world today, I see delusional people. I see psychotic people. I see people who are crazy, and we're leaving that behind. There's a spiritual or an energetic exodus stepping away from the conditioning that we have been put into to be transformed by the renewing of my mind, personally, to quote the New Testament, right? And I'm using a lot of these biblical things because you seem like a biblical kind of dude. I don't know. But anyways, I do want to end my presentation here. I hope that you guys, like I said, recognize that I'm trying to show respect to somebody that I admire, a fellow content creator, somebody who does similar things as to what I do, somebody who's more successful if we go in terms of subscribers and stuff. Which, by the way, I just surpassed 108,000 subscribers. Can I get a positive emoji flood in the chat? I'm very proud of that. Yeah. So I respect people who are doing out there likewise, similar to the things that I do, and I make mistakes too. People make videos about me. Like people have done all kinds of things, called me out, sometimes not in very tactful ways, which I don't appreciate. So I hope that this presentation has come across as tactful. I've also made one, I don't do a lot of video responses to people. I did one for Bright Insight and his theory that Atlantis is in Africa. I had to do one about that. And then I did a response video to something. I think I was just responding in general to the Georgia Guidestones being blown up. Over the years, I haven't done too many response videos. So, Woodward TV, if you're watching, much love, much respect. I wish you success. I hope your channel, is monetized already or gets back to monetization. I hope that my subscribers will go subscribe to you, and because I get some good things from your channel, and you've got me scratching my head quite often. And I want to just say thanks. Thanks for inspiring me to make this video and stuff. And if you guys go to his channel, you better not be bad. You better not. Do not misrepresent me and the Good Vibe Tribe in such ways, okay? If you want to speak from your beliefs, speak from your beliefs. Say things like, I believe, or it seems to me, you know what I mean? Be tactful when we go over to other people's channels. All right. If you guys would like to attend one of my meetups, I will be holding my first one in Denver next month. There's information about that on my merch shelf here on YouTube. You can just click on the store, or you can go to my website and you can click on the store on my website, and you can purchase a ticket and all that. There's also events coming up where you can come with me on my Chasing the Apocalypse series. I will be visiting the Grand Canyon, and I will be looking at evidence for this apocalyptic cycle in the Grand Canyon. I'm going to go on a hike with a few people, and it'll be a time to have some personal time with the people who are my viewers and stuff, and supporters. And then after that, I'm going to be traveling to the center of the world, Felicity, California, which is a weird place. So if you live in California, you can, purchase a ticket, come meet me over there. and I'll see you in the center of the world. And I'm going to be doing a presentation in Flagstaff, Arizona. I'm going to be doing a presentation in San Diego, or the San Diego area. I'm looking for like probably El Cajon. To me, that's San Diego. Okay, Miramar, Santee, El Cajon, like all those are basically the greater San Diego area. But San Diego is expensive. That's why I'm looking at like El Cajon and stuff. But anyways, go check it out. And please hang out and enjoy the music as I run these sweet credits. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
Hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easier for me if I turn away to flee. Oh, but there's something holding on, the way of being long gone. So